Santo, 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 nuestro Dios, Señor de toda la historia. Santo, Santo, nuestro Dios. Santo, 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 nuestro Dios, Señor de toda la tierra. Santo, Santo, nuestro Dios, que acampa nuestro pueblo, que vive nuestras luchas, el universo entero, el único Señor. Benditos cosle su nombre, el evangelio anuncian la buena y gran noticia de la liberación. Santo, 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 nuestro Dios, Señor de toda la tierra. Santo, Santo, nuestro Dios. Santo, 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 nuestro Dios, Señor de toda la historia. Santo, Santo, nuestro Dios.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Chard. I am of the worship team. Welcome. Whoever you are, whatever you believe, however you identify, you are welcome here. Great words to have after yesterday's rally, at which I understand the good 7 of us were represented in Oneida Square. We are a community because we support one another. It's good to be together. It's the first week, going to be the first week in the month, which means A Course in Miracles is on Tuesday night, and the Ions group. And I'm getting up here pretty often and telling you about how much I like the Ions group. Noetic Sciences, mainly because of the people who just show up on Zoom and in person. It's just, it's a discussion group and really interesting stuff. And of course, Jack Pendergrast. If you want an invite to that group and a Zoom link, see me, please. We have some announcers who are going to do some announcements. Let's start with the Prez. Where's John? Hey.
Good morning. I'm John Camilleri. I'm the chair of the Ministerial Search Committee. The search for a new minister is underway, and we'll keep everyone updated. We'd like to get everyone's input as to how you envision the church in the next ministry and beyond. So to do that, we have sent out a survey to members and friends last Monday. So if you have an email that says we value your input on the subject line, please open it. Just takes a few minutes. Also, we have hard copies of the survey in the back table there. So you can take one and fill it out today or take it home and bring it back. Thank you.
And the former Prez, Paul Tenerowitz.
Hello, everyone. I'm here today representing the Stewardship Committee. We're still in the midst of our pledge drive. We have right now about $75,000 in pledges from 44 pledgers. So we got about 20 members left that pledged last year that we haven't gotten a pledge from. So if you would please get that into us as soon as you can, we would really appreciate it. There are pledge cards on the back table back there, and you can fill one out. You can respond to the emails we've sent, and or just talk to someone on the Stewardship Committee, which would be me, Jack Pendergrast, Jeff, or Barb Freeman. And also, if you're not a member but you'd like to pledge, we would really appreciate that, because we're a little bit behind last year, and if you believe in the mission of this church and the community that it offers and everything else about it. We hope that even if you haven't joined yet, that you might be able to make a financial contribution to keep it going. So thank you.
All right, we've heard from John and Paul. Ringo's not here today, but here's Stephanie Markham.
He's got jokes. Tomorrow is Transgender Day of Visibility, and hopefully you already know about our event here at 6 p.m. Featuring the poetry of Branwyn Drew and a lecture from our own Dr. Melissa Barlett. From Biology to Identity, a journey beyond chromosomes. We would love to see you back here tomorrow at 6 o'clock. See me if you have any questions.
Anything else for announcements, folks? Brenda. Okay. You want to use the wireless mic?
It's not my fault, but it reminds me of spring. And I sent a note to the newsletter because, I hate this. I'm sorry. Sorry to the people on Zoom. So years ago, I don't know how many years ago, we had a giving basket here in the church all the time. And every month we collected a certain item, whether it was toothbrushes or hygiene items or whatever. But we're going to try to reinstitute that. And for this month of April, we're going to do some kids' items. So Asher was supposed to come up here. Oh, go get it. Go get the kids and bring those things up here. Okay? What I'd like to have is a basket full of kickballs and bubbles, and you don't have to go crazy and buy little pink ball gloves, but if you want to, you can. What comes kites? I had a list of things and now I'm going blank, but are you gonna bring all those things up and put them here? Go get them. I guess we should rehearse this. But anyways, it starts at the beginning of every month, and these things will be distributed to children or adults in some cases. Go get the stuff with Asher. It's in the kids' room. And then we'll distribute it to children that don't have as much as maybe we did when we were little. But this time of year, it seems like lots of times I was one of 10 children, so our gifts weren't big, but we'd get sidewalk chalk in our Easter basket, or we'd get a cheap kite so these are the kinds of things, buckets and shovels and wiffle ball bats, and so we'll have a collection of this, and then every month we'll send out another item that we're gonna collect, and we'll probably have a smaller basket. And I'm not sure where the church is going to want to put this big basket for this month, but we'll get it out there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay. Bring it right up here. No, you're not giving it up.
All right, we're good on announcements, yes? Okay. Our chalice lighting with the words of Amy Carroll Webb. How often we seek refuge in this sacred flame from the world's trouble and pain. Today, may our lamp light the way for those who know no refuge, that we may open our minds, our arms, our hearts, our mouths, to sing, "Come, whoever you are, wholly new and wholly true." Our guest speaker today is our guest minister, Reverend Sam Pendergrast. And you've probably seen it in the newsletter and the order of service. Sam Reverend Sam was a Presbyterian, is a Presbyterian minister, served in Rome and Casanova. When he retired, Reverend Sam and his wife Cynthia sold their house, put their belongings into storage, and went to work on the border, the southern border. Sam is, we're going to see a presentation, and the presentation is going to be longer than we can do in one shot. So after we get our coffee, we're going to see the rest of the presentation for anyone who is able to stay around. Our call to worship. Sam, if you would come up.
We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May we be reminded that all beings are whole, sacred, and worthy. Let our hearts be welcoming of multiple truths, not holding hard or fast to closed-mindedness or judgmental thinking. What can we learn from each other in the richness of our differences? May the heart of compassion help us recognize the sacred in each other and bridge differences in these challenging times. May each of us be held in relationship, accountability, and the power of beloved community. Blessed be.
Please, in your teal hymn books, hymn number 1027, mumble along in Spanish. Melissa, what are we going to do with this?
We are going to sing the verses in English and the chorus in Spanish. So at the beginning, you can start on the English words, "when the poor ones," and then on the second page, when we get to the part where it says, "Va Dios mismo," we see God, we'll do that part in Spanish, and every verse that part repeats. So you'll get a whole bunch of tries at it. So, but we'll start it off in English. Let me give you guys an introduction. When the poor ones who have nothing still are giving, when the thirsty pass the cup, water to share, when the wounded offer others strength and healing, va Dios mismo en nuestros mismo caminar, va Dios mismo en nuestros mismo caminar. When compassion gives the suffering consolation, when expecting brings to birth hope that was lost, when we choose love, not the hatred all around us, va Dios mismo en nuestros mismo caminar, va Dios mismo en nuestros mismo caminar. When our spirits like a chalice brim with gladness, when our voices full and clear sing out the truth, when our longing free from envy seek the humble, va Dios mismo nuestros mismo caminar, va Dios mismo en nuestros mismo caminar. When the goodness poured from heaven fills our dwelling, when the nations work to change war into peace, when the stranger is accepted as our neighbor, va Dios mismo
nuestros mismo caminar, va Dios mismo en nuestros mismo caminar.
Well, thank you to Bob and Letty for suggesting that you invite me to come and speak. Cynthia and I lived in Agua Prieta, Sonora, which is the sister city of Douglas, Arizona, from January the 5th, 2023, until January 8th, 2024, working with Frontera de Cristo, which is a binational Presbyterian project there at the border. It has a board of directors made up of people from the Presbytery of Chihuahua, of the Mexican National Presbyterian Church, and people from the Presbytery of de Cristo in Arizona. And it is a project that just celebrated its 40th anniversary last fall. Their slogan, their motto, their purpose is building relationships and understanding across borders. Seems like a more and more important thing to do these days. If you have any trouble seeing, there are plenty of seats further up so you can be closer to the pictures. This is a kind of a dark picture, but if you're standing where I was when you took this picture, you're on the top of a hill about 6 miles east of Douglas, looking due east, and New Mexico is about 30 miles away. The border is quite a phenomenon. I mean, back, it has become more of a phenomenon these days. Back when it was just an imaginary line on a map, and there were these stone obelisks every so often, and sometimes there was barbed wire. It was just a place where people would walk across to see their neighbors, or to go shopping, or to go see family, or to swim in the pool, or to go to work. But as the border has become more and more hardened, there's one of the obelisks. Those actually sit right on the border. Mexico would not let the United States build the wall right on the border. It's set back about 4 feet because they didn't want the U.S. putting stuff on their land. So when you see the border fence, it is set back from that obelisk. The sign, you probably can't read from where you're sitting. This is at the Coronado National Monument, which is just south of Sierra Vista, Arizona. It's a big monument to that Spanish guy, Coronado, who explored stuff and looked for the lost city of gold and never found it. But there's a monument to him, and there's some beautiful hiking trails. One of the trails goes right down to the border, and there's a sign that the National Park Service has put there that says, "Smuggling and/or illegal entry is common in this area due to the proximity of the international border. Please be aware of your surroundings at all times and do not travel alone in remote areas." Of course, I was hiking by myself because I had been working with migrants for a year at this point and knew that they were not dangerous, and that if I encountered them, I might give them some water to drink, because we had I'll tell you more about the vigil. There's a vigil every week to remember those who have died trying to cross. But if you look at the border, now that as it exists now, you see the dark line running kind of diagonally out toward the west there, dividing Douglas and Agua Prieta. you can see how, and especially if you get close to it, you can see how it has become more and more militarized, more and more hardened, and why people now come to places like this to cross, which requires days of walking and the risk of death from dehydration and exposure. Because in the 1990s, when the policy of prevention through deterrence, that was the official name, prevention through deterrence was thought up and enacted by the Clinton administration and the Border Patrol at the time. The idea was that if we make it too dangerous for people to cross, and if they have to risk their lives by risking freezing to death or dehydration in the desert, they won't do it. Well, they do anyway because that's what they believe is their only choice. So it's no surprise that people are miles out from anywhere on the spur of a mountain range trying to cross the border to get to some pickup spot on a back road somewhere to get picked up by a driver to go to Tucson or Phoenix or LA or Denver or wherever it is they want to go. We lived in this little blue apartment in the southeast part of Agua Prieta on an alley. There, it was a duplex. The orange side is where two Frontera interns lived who oriented us and helped us figure out how to light our heater because it was January when we moved in. And we're at 4,000 feet elevation here, and it gets really cold at night in the desert at 4,000 feet in southern Arizona. We learned that the big White House down the block on the right was one of the houses owned by a leader of the cartel, the Sinaloa cartel in the area. And Leslie and Shayla said, well, don't worry, he knows who we are, and he won't let anything happen to us. Because the cartel in Agua Prieta, Sonora, wants the city to be peaceful and orderly. They don't want people messing up their system. They're a very powerful and organized criminal organization that controls what migrants get to come to town, how much they have to pay. They run they control all the bus stations and the taxis. And if you're a migrant, you have to have a code from them showing that you've paid for the right to be in town. There are a lot of stories I could tell about that, but just to know that part of the kind of the background radiation of living in Agua Prieta, Sonora was knowing that the cartel was everywhere. They would stand, they monitor every neighborhood. They would stand on the corner across the street from the migrant hospitality center and just watch. And you always knew that you were being watched. Agua Prieta is a beautiful little desert city of about 100,000, 120,000, home to a lot of maquiladoras, the assembly plants. They make a lot of auto parts there. Of course, Trump wants those to be made in the U.S. now, so we'll see. A lot of people might lose their jobs if they, I don't know, it's crazy, isn't it? We learned that a lot of people who are trying to cross the border get to the border and then they don't have enough money to pay for the next leg of their journey to pay to get taken across, so they'll get a job at the auto parts plants. Or there's a big Velcro factory there. There's a place that makes leveler blinds. I mean, you see all kinds of brands on these big factories where, of course, U.S. employers locate their plants there to get cheaper labor costs. Douglas and Agua Prieta are sister cities, except sister cities separated by an international border, which makes it at the least annoying and at the most really difficult to go back and forth. whenever we would cross, I mean, we lived in Mexico, and we would go across when there were groups there. One of Frontera de Cristo's main purposes is to do border education. So they host university and school and church groups and other groups who come and live there for a week or so and get immersed in the projects and the work going on, so they learn more about the reality of the border. So we would often be back and forth for an interview with Border Patrol, for a trip to the desert, to, you know, who knows what. And whenever I would go across back to the US, I just got used to it. They would say, "What was the purpose of your trip? What are you bringing back? Why are you, where are you going?" And I'd say, "Well, I live over there and I'm just going to the office, or I've got to take this group somewhere," or, and it's like a normal routine of daily activities is interrupted by this Customs and Border Protection official whose job it is to be suspicious of you, right? And it's like this psychological violence having to go through that. And then, of course, the Mexican customs officials are trying to prevent cash and weapons that are always being smuggled into Mexico. That's the big sign as you go into Mexico, is warning you not to bring weapons or more than $10,000 of cash. So it's just a really interesting place to live, and just to kind of absorb the reality of what it's like to live there, because Walmart is just a quarter mile across the border, and half the people in Agua Prieta go across to shop at Walmart. And, and there's always this giant line of grocery carts at the border crossing where they're walking back across, leave their cart and carry their stuff back. So here's Frontera de Cristo staff and volunteers and interns. They do an amazing amount of stuff. They work with a drug rehab program, a children's enrichment program. Cynthia worked in the children's program. I have to tell you just a little bit about that. The main purposes of the children's program are to provide enrichment. Mexican schools there work on 2 shifts. You either go to school in the morning or the afternoon. So they have 2 shifts of the enrichment program. Kids who are behind in homework or maybe haven't been able to go to school or need help with catching up to grade level or reading or whatever come. But also it's socialization and trying to instill some values and goals in kids to want to do something other than work for the cartel. Pastor Lorena, who is the woman in the blue golf shirt on the right, will ask children, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And there's inevitably some little boy who says, "I want to be a sicario." And they have really no idea at that age what that means, that they would kill people for a living. But one of the reasons for the program is to give children something else to hope for. This is the green building is the Migrant Resource Center. I worked there 5 or 6 days a week, providing hospitality to people getting sent back to Mexico from the U.S. I think at coffee break, we can talk more in more detail about all the changes. Oh my gosh, changes over the last 2 years in patterns of migration and deportation. It has been a wild ride. But when we first got there, the center was open 24 hours a day, and there were more people being deported in the middle of the night than any other time. There were student volunteers. Most of these were students in the university on the east side of town in social work who were volunteering at the Migrant Resource Center. And at 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, van loads of Border Patrol vans would pull up and send people back across. And this was January, and it was below freezing, and the people were just said, go through that gate, go back to Mexico. Often, the first question they would ask when they got to the Migrant Resource Center was, "Where am I?" Meaning, they might have been detained somewhere else. Whoops, I just put my hand in the lamp. Detained somewhere else, and they call it lateral deportation. It's just a tactic Border Patrol uses to confuse people. So they might have been picked up 100 miles to the west, but they were taken to the Douglas Border Patrol station, processed there, and then deported at Agua Prieta. So they don't know where they are. All they know is that they were in a van, they were in a detention center, and now they're here, and they don't know where here is. So, and sometimes, I don't know where my husband is. We were separated in detention. So fortunately, Border Patrol has to inform the Mexican consulate of every Mexican national that they detain and expel back to Mexico. So if somebody comes up to us at the Migrant Center and says, I don't know where my wife is, I don't know where my husband is, or I was traveling with my nephew and I don't know where they are, then we have the number for the consulate. There's a 24-hour number in Tucson. Also, there's a consulate office in Douglas, but it's only open daytime. And we can help people track down the people they were traveling with. I mean, you can imagine, or maybe you can't, but you can try to imagine what it's like if you're a person who has left your home thousands of miles away, traveled through Mexico, all you own is in a little backpack on your back, and you've paid, you're in debt to the cartel, and you crossed, and suddenly you're detained and you're sent back, and the people you're traveling with have disappeared, and you're by yourself in a strange place where you've never been. So the migrant journey is not for the faint of heart. It's not something people undertake on just a whim. I mean, it's a life or death matter. So we try our best, and I say we because I lived there and worked there for a year, so I think of it as we, to make it a hospitable place. There are murals, there's a playground out back because we find more and more children traveling with their parents. We go through endless amounts of sidewalk chalk. There's a laundry, not laundry. We have a cold water tap and buckets, and people can wash their clothes in buckets, but we have clotheslines. This is an important picture. On the right side, there's a blue section of the border wall. Just to the right of that is where the pedestrian exit from the U.S. comes out into this plaza. And I would often get up on the fire escape in back and just watch the plaza if there's nothing to do, because then I would see people come out, and you can see a few people sitting on those benches. And you learn kind of what migrants look like. I mean, usually wearing dark clothes, they've got a little backpack, maybe they've got just a clear plastic bag with their stuff because Border Patrol has confiscated their backpack and just given them this plastic bag. It's another one of the ways Border Patrol just abuses people. Sometimes they take their documents and their phone. It's just amazing how heartless the system seems to be. But we would just watch for people to come and sit down. The first thing they do is they put their shoelaces back in because Border Patrol has taken their shoelaces so they don't strangle somebody or try to choke themselves. It's just SOP, right? Or we keep shoelaces, a big supply, because sometimes their shoelaces are gone and they need new ones. But we invite them in for water, coffee, sandwich, beans, whatever. And it is a daily, it was mostly it was just people were so glad to have a place to sit down and rest, have something to eat, to take a shower, before they had to figure out, okay, what do I do now? Do I try to cross again? We would always orient them, tell them about the resources. There's a shelter that also the Catholic Church runs that's a few blocks away. Most people didn't take us up on the offer for the shelter. They would just try to cross again. But if they were just exhausted and thinking about going home, the folks at the shelter, which included an immigration lawyer, would help them think about their options and what they could do. Also, the people at the shelter could help them prepare an asylum case. If they had enough documentation, they could have a chance at proving asylum. That was back when we actually accepted appeals for asylum. This is the door, the wall in front of the shelter. The mural on the right depicts the migrant journey from the jungles of Central America to the deserts of Sonora. It's a great mural to stand in front of, to meditate. It depicts the suffering, the abuse people suffer on this journey. Here's another mural on the inside and the landing of a stairwell. Part of what we did with groups was take them out to the desert and walk the migrant trails. And the people from the drug rehab center, a lot of whom had been coyotes, had been guides, and had made enough money they could buy a lot of drugs and come up with some addiction problems, so they're now in recovery. But they were great hosts. They made us little hot meals out in the desert and took us to this place called the Tree of Life, where they maintain a water station where migrants on the trail could get water. And we would go with them out to the wall. They showed us things like this ladder stashed in an arroyo, and point out hills where the cartel has spotters to see where the Border Patrol is, so they could radio and say, yes, you can cross now. And they'd put the ladder up, send people up, lower them down the other side, and make a run for it. They would also demonstrate their climbing skills. They always had a good time racing to the top so you could hit that metal plate at the top first. They did what they could to entertain us, I guess, or show off. And then during the rainy season, the flash floods would wash out under the wall. So at this place, we could actually walk under the wall into the U.S., say, hi, we're in the U.S., and then we'll come back before anybody. And we knew, like, there's cameras everywhere. And so we know that they're seeing us, they being Border Patrol. It's just, I don't know, it's part of it is scary and part of it is just absurd. Okay, so there's a women's co-op with a great garden. This is also part of Frontier de Cristo. The woman in the pink bathrobe in the middle is Trini. This was like at 7:30 in the morning. We had gone down there, and Trini always was out early working in the garden, tending her plot. This is a place where any woman who's part of the co-op could have a plot to grow food for their family. This was also one location of the children's program. I have to tell you about Cafe Justo. In the 90s, the peso experienced a huge devaluation, and at the same time, the prices that the coffee buyers paid coffee farmers for their beans plunged by over half. And people at the border started encountering more and more young men who had left Chiapas and Oaxaca and other parts of the southern mountains coming to the border to get work or to cross to the US to get work. One thing led to another, and they said, what if the farmers could own a roasting and export business at the border? And they could control the whole process and get all the profit, where they weren't just selling their beans for a few dollars a bag to the coffee growers, or with equal exchange, it's the same thing, they just pay a little more, which is not really equal because the equal exchange people get the profit for the roasting and sales. But, and I looked at your coffee back there, and I want to encourage you to think about buying Café Justo, just coffee, which is a farmer-owned coffee business where they get all the profit for the whole process. The farmers grow and depulp and dry and dehusk the beans in the southern mountains, then ship bags of beans to Agua Prieta where they get roasted. And so they're only big enough to do online or email or phone orders. They're not in stores. But their main customers are churches and schools. I've bought just coffee for 20 years myself. And if you're an organization like a church, you can become a partner and you get a discount. And it's shade-grown organic Arabica coffee, the best coffee there is. Anyway, but this is one of the roasters, and they have made it possible for all the members of these families to come back home, to leave their jobs in Denver or Atlanta or wherever, and be there with their families and not have to decide when their mother dies, do I go home? Can I get back again to the US if I go home, now that it's harder and harder to cross? Or some make the decision, if they do go home, they know they're probably not going to be able to get back, and they've got a family in the US. This just gives you an idea of the size of this 30-foot wall that, I mean, it was about 15, 18 feet through Obama, and then Trump decided to make it 30 feet. So now if you fall off of it, you're more likely to die. Blunt force trauma, head injuries, a lot of broken bones. There was a guy living at the shelter who had fallen off, and he had broken his ankle, hip, and shoulder, and some ribs when he fell, and he underwent multiple surgeries. Often, I'm going to have to wrap up shortly, and we can continue with questions at coffee time. Just some more pictures of the wall. And on the US side, it looks like this. And there are a lot of these things: night vision cameras, infrared, ground sensors. They can detect your footsteps. This is the pedestrian entrance from Mexico to the US. But on the Mexican side, it looks like this. And there's this linear park and lots of murals and places to sit in the shade. This was my favorite mural. A vision of what the border could be. Every Tuesday there's a vigil where we remember the migrants who've died in Cochise County. The ones we know about are about 400 over the last 25 years. That's only the ones we know about, because a lot of bodies are just never found. We say the names, put the crosses down the sidewalk, and have a ceremony at the end. These 8 were the 8 people who died in a flash flood as they were in a drainage tunnel under the city trying to go north, and it was monsoon season, and a flash flood came down and swept these 8 people to their deaths. And then the School Sisters of Notre Dame, who were there, started this practice, which was to have a cross-planting as close as possible to the spot where the remains were found, and to have a ceremony and a blessing. An Apache elder led the ceremony and smudged everybody, and we got to blow conchs and play the drums and pray for peace for the spirit of the person who died. So this just says God hasn't brought me this far to go back. And the Migrant Center's theme one year was people should be free to choose whether to migrate or stay home. There's a walk that I participated in called the Arizona Migrant Trail. We walk from the border at Sasabe to Tucson, 75 miles. The hottest week of the year, right after Memorial Day, when the sun is at its peak. But we have support vehicles and plenty of water. But we carry crosses on that trip too, to remember all the folks who've died. This is the last slide. Just on a random building in Douglas, 2 migrants in the cold of the night in the desert trying to stay warm. So that's part of my experience of living there for a year. You can ask questions. We can talk more about policy and changes in migration, all that stuff at coffee time. Okay? I'll leave that picture up.
Very good. Sam, I think the way that we have formatted this is you're going to come back to this podium, and we're going to have a talk back, but that's going to be after we enjoy the hospitality of the fabulous Fogs, who are bringing us the coffee hour this morning. Are you going to continue with the presentation? No more pictures, okay.
Time for questions and conversation.
All right. Paul, would you want to flip the light on, please? That's the circular switch. And let me just mention at this time, too, that I asked Sam, if there was, what kind of takeaway, if any, there might be from today's presentation. And Sam said his hope is that people will take away an appreciation for the human reality of people who come to our southern border seeking help, family, work, asylum, safety. Migration, immigration, borders, certainly one of the great issues of our day, and maybe we can explore that a little bit. Folks on Zoom, we're going to have candles after the hymn, which is number 1016 in your teal hymnal. But folks on Zoom, you can start talking now, typing now, if you want to be in the chat. Melissa, please.
All right, this one is the reverse of the last one. The chorus is at the beginning, and the verses are on the second page, but we were going to do it the same way, chorus in Spanish, verses in English. So we'll start with the Spanish this time.
Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, que tu voz se eco del clamor de los pueblos en opresión. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, anunciándole a los pobres una nueva sociedad. I sanctify you, prophet. Banish all doubt and fear. Be faithful to your mission, the quest that leads us on. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, que tu voz el eco del clamor de los pueblos en opresión. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, anunciándole los pobres una nueva sociedad. Announce to all the people that justice promised long, restore to every nation true peace throughout the world. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, que tu voz se eca del clamor de los pueblos en opresión. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, anunciando a los pobres una nueva sociedad. Denounce you all who are causing oppression, sorrow, tears. Let truth be your protection, the light of a new sun. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, que tu voz elega del clamor de los pueblos en opresión. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, anunciándole a los pobres una nueva sociedad. Let this be what we hope for, the battle that you choose, to build a social order with justice at its core. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, que tu voz elega del clamor de los pueblos en opresión. Profetiza, pueblo mío, profetiza una vez más, anunciándole a los pobres una nueva sociedad.
And Paul Hadley has some words that are appropriate. You want to use this rather than? All right, that are appropriate for our offering today.
Good morning. I'm Paul Hadley. I wandered into this church last summer. Reverend Karen was giving a sermon on UU, compass, and spiritual practice. You see, I have a good memory, but it's short. I found that in the old newsletter. So I enjoyed the sermon. There was a discussion afterwards. I went. Every Unitarian has different ideas about how you meditate and what is a spiritual practice. And it was good to hear everyone participate. And maybe a couple weeks later, there was another after-service chat led by Letty Mitty and Mary McGurl, and it was on UUism and this church. And it was for any prospective new member. And I attended that and learned about this community. And I volunteered that I enjoyed singing, and the word was spread, and Chris Geisha and Barb Freeman approached me, and all of a sudden I was a hymn singer. And then I got a chance to be in a trio, and it was Chris and Barbara and myself, and just before we were to go on, maybe a couple days before, Barb broke her leg, so the trio became a duet, but we did it. And then one time at coffee hour, I said to Deb Hagenbeck, you know, I am really interested in social concerns. I've been a member of the UU Church before when I was in Boston, but at that point I was more involved in RE and the coming of age program, but I want to get involved in social concerns. So she walked me to Ken Drake, and I met Ken Drake, and I joined the Democracy in Action Committee, and I've had the pleasure to be part of the service that they put on 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then another time, at coffee hour, I met this lady that was just full of enthusiasm and energy, and she told me that she was in the Course in Miracles. So I thought, well, gee, maybe I could catch some of that, and I wouldn't be as I usually am, not this animated. So after talking to Lorraine, I joined the Course in Miracles, and that has been helpful for me. And I think it all boils down to, if you put a lot in, you get a lot out of it, and you enjoy this community, and that's what it's been for me. The Beatles said, "The love you take is equal to the love you make." I want to make a pledge. I hope you want to make a pledge. And as Mother Teresa said, give till it hurts.
Thank you, Paul. If the ushers will come forward for the collection, please, and Melissa. Thank you, Melissa. Our closing words are from the UUA's 2013 Statement of Conscience, muchly abridged at this time. Belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person is core to Unitarian Universalism. Every person, no exceptions. Our principles call for us to acknowledge the immigrant experience and to affirm and promote the flourishing of the human family. Our principles and sources call us to recognize the opportunities and challenges of human migration, caring for ourselves and our families, interacting with strangers, valuing diversity, and dealing with immigration systems. And with that, we will extinguish our chalice with the words in your order of service, if you would. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. So, folks on Zoom, we're going to take a break here and have some food. You can do that, or you can stay on Zoom and chat. We're going to turn the chat on for you folks. And then in about 10 minutes, Reverend Sam is going to be back up here, and we're going to have a talk back. So if you can stay, that'd be great.
Revigia su corazón per hallare l'amore in un rincón, per buscar l'amor ni per ni passione l'amor. hacia otro bien, busca amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartí, busca amor en ti, solo que el alma puede ser feliz, busca amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís, busca amor en ti, solo que el alma puede ser feliz, busca amor en ti, en ti. Registra tu camelón cuando cambia el calor del corazón. Te estalla la flor, un pétalo del sol, el amor. Luego hacia otra bien, busca amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís, busca amor en ti, solo que alma puede ser feliz, busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís, busca amor en ti, solo que el alma puede ser feliz, busca amor.